children, we are going to study about now the properties of non-metals as well as their reaction, that is the chemical properties of non-metals. First, let's understand what non-metals are. Here is a non-metal, that is chlorine. All non-metals tends to receive the electron. When they tend to receive the electron, that means they are with less 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their outermost orbit. Okay, so they receive one or more than one electron from the elements, those who are losing that electron. So non-metals tends to gain the electron, and when they gain the electron they become electronegative elements. Okay, so because of gaining electron they get a negative charge, because as they have the number of protons and the number of electrons differs. Okay, so they become, first they become the electrically negative elements because of gaining of electrons. Okay, now what happens when they gain electron? They get charge on them. They get, if they gain one electron they get one charge, or if they gain two electrons they get two charge. Okay, so that is one property of the element, that the metal, not metal, the property of non-metal, where they receive the electron. Now non-metal, we have to see the reaction of non-metals with different types of substances from the surrounding. No, from our surrounding we have oxygen, we have carbon dioxide, we get many times the acid rain also, isn't it? We get acid rain in the form of hydrogen, no, carbonic acid, sulfur dioxide, nitric acid. All these types of acids are there. They keep on reacting with these elements, with these non-metals. So let's study first the non-metals react with oxygen. When non-metals react with oxygen they form acidic oxides. Metals react with oxygen, they form basic oxide. Here non-metals react with oxygen, they form acidic oxide. You will find here sulfur and the coal. When coal burns and the sulfur burns, okay, coal burns, it gives out a gas called as carbon dioxide gas, as coal is a carbon, and sulfur, when it burns, it gives out a gas which is called as sulfur dioxide gas or sulfur monoxide gas. Okay, so you will find carbon, burning of carbon, that is carbon is a non-metal, so it reacts easily with oxygen which is present in the atmosphere. So here the reaction becomes C plus O2, it gives CO2. Okay, so that is coal. When you burn it, usually whatever the coal we have, whatever the burning process we take it in the atmosphere, or we do it in the atmosphere, all this combustion gives out carbon dioxide. Okay, because they have the main form, organic compounds have the main form, that is the carbon in them. So here carbon plus oxygen, it gives out carbon monoxide also, and carbon plus oxygen, it gives out carbon dioxide also. When carbon is completely combustible, when it completely burns, it gives out carbon dioxide, and when carbon is incompletely burned, it gives out carbon monoxide which is neutral. Now sulfur, we'll see the burning of the sulfur. When sulfur burns, you could find sulfur is a yellow color powder. It burns with a very beautiful blue color flame. Okay, so what will be formed here? That is, here again they have shown carbon, the carbon dioxide is acidic, that is gas, and carbon monoxide is neutral. When sulfur is burned, that yellow color sulfur turns into brown color, and we get sulfur plus oxygen, we get sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is acidic. Okay, now non-metals, they do not react with water except halogen. We have seen reaction of non-metal with acids, not with acid, with oxygen, and they form the acidic nature also, as well as they form the neutral nature also. Here we have to see now reaction of non-metals with water. Non-metals, they do not react with water, but halogen reacts with water. All the halogens are there. Halogens you must be knowing: chlorine, fluorine, bromine, iodine. These are the halogens. These halogens react with water to form hypochlorous acid, to form that halogen acid, as well as hydrochloric acid is also given out. So chlorine will take one halogen here and try to react with water. It reacts easily with water to form hypochlorous acid. See its equation, got that? As well as hydrochloric acid is given out. So non-metal, they do not react with water, only halogens react with water. So hypochloric acid, hypochlorous acid is formed, as well as hydrochloric acid is also formed. Two things are produced here when halogen react with water. Here halogen we have taken here as chlorine. Non-metals do not react with dilute acids. All the non-metals are there, they do not react with dilute acid, only halogens. Halogens react with dilute acids. Now how they react with dilute acid? We'll see. This is an halogen. We have placed inside one halogen is taken, that is bromine, and we have added hydrochloric acid in it. So what will be formed? Bromine and hydrochloric acid. Okay, so here they have taken chlorine and bromic acid. Okay, so you can interchange it. Here instead of chlorine you can take it bromine, and instead of HBr you can take it as HCl. So the other thing will be formed. Now chlorine is taken and hydrogen bromide or bromic acid is taken. We get hydrochloric acid and bromine gas. Bromine will be given out in the form of aqueous. It will be in the state of aqueous, that is liquid state. If other than chlorine, if you take bromine and react with hydrochloric acid, what you are going to get is those things which are here now. What will get? Bromic acid will get, and chlorine gas will be removed out. Okay, see, this will be interchange. So right hand side will become left hand side, and left hand side will become right hand side. So chlorine plus bromic acid or hydrogen bromide, you will get hydrochloric acid. It will be in aqueous state only, and bromine also will be in aqueous state only. So here what happens when those two things react with each other? Chlorine reacts with bromic acid, that is halogen reacts with acid. We get that halogen acid, as well as halogen is released out. Another halogen is released out. In that case, oxidation reaction takes place. Hydrogen bromide or bromic acid, it loses hydrogen. Okay, as well as chlorine, it gains hydrogen. So here oxidation reaction takes place. Oxidation reaction means when a substance loses hydrogen. Okay, that time also we call it as oxidation reaction. And what is the oxidant here? Oxidizing agent, chlorine. Chlorine is an oxidizing agent. So this reaction also is an oxidation reaction. Okay, what reaction? That is non-metals reacting with dilute acid. Non-metal here is halogen. Just remember, non-metal do not react with acids, but a non-metal like halogen, only halogen reacts with dilute acids. Now non-metals reacting with hydrogen. How non-metals react with hydrogen? So non-metals react with hydrogen under certain condition, like they require proper temperature, they require proper pressure, as well as some catalyst has to be used here. So what do you mean by catalyst? Catalyst are, these are the enzymes for speeding up the reaction. So we have to see how the non-metals react with hydrogen. Okay, why you have to see all these things? Because now if you are studying about metallurgy, there are many metals, there are many of the compounds which are there in the soil, which are there in the earth's crust, okay, in our atmosphere. And if you want to extract the substance, you have to make their reactions with different types of those substances. So non-metals, they react with hydrogen under certain condition, like proper temperature also you have to give them, you have to provide pressure, you have to give some catalyst for speeding up the reaction. Here, that is the non reaction of non-metal with hydrogen. One non-metal we have taken, that is the nitrogen, and hydrogen, reaction of nitrogen with hydrogen we have taken here, and the catalyst used here is the iron. So what you get here is the ammonia. So nitrogen plus hydrogen, you get NH3. Now suppose if you have to extract, if you have to produce ammonia, so you require to know this reaction. If you have to produce the ammonia, or either in a factory how the ammonia is produced, why ammonia is required? Ammonia is required in great quantity for fertilizers, you know that. Okay, so urea, uric acid, all those fertilizers requires ammonia for the growth, for the protein supply, okay, for the soil, so that plant could extract this nitrogen. So nitrogen plus hydrogen, it gets in the presence of iron, iron acts as a catalyst here, and you get ammonia. So ammonia, how it is formed? NH3. Reaction of non-metal with hydrogen, again one more non-metal is taken, hydrogen sulfide. You know, many times we require hydrogen sulfide also. It is in the form of gases. Many of its uses are also there of hydrogen sulfide. You can find out its uses. Okay, so sulfur plus hydrogen, it forms hydrogen sulfide gas. Sodium, we are going to study about the ionic compound, that is sodium chloride. Any ionic compound, but what especially these ionic compounds are there? They are formed because of, first of all, they are formed from one metal and the other one is non-metal. They are formed by the chemical reaction of metal and non-metal. Now metal and non-metal, how they come together to get bonded with each other? So when metal gives out electron, non-metal accepts, receives the electron, it gains. So metal tends to give the electron, and when it is giving the electron, it tends to receive that electron. So a bond is formed in between them, and that bond we call it as ionic bond. And this type of compound we call it as ionic compound. So here this compound is the sodium chloride. You will find sodium loses one electron and chlorine also receives one electron and forms a bonding in between them. So sodium is electropositive and chlorine is electronegative. So that sodium becomes cation and chlorine is anion. Cation, that is positively charged, and anion negatively charged. Now how they are arranged? They are arranged in a particular manner. Suppose one chlorine atom is there, it is bonded by one sodium atom. Then that sodium atom is bonded by the next chlorine atom because of the repel of the charges. Sodium and sodium will not come towards each other's neighborhood. Okay, you will find these atoms, you will find, just see the atoms of the sodium and chlorine. Here you could see, okay, sodium and chlorine, how you it is sodium, then chlorine, then sodium, then besides sodium there will be no other sodium atom. Okay, so here how they can arrange themselves. if suppose two atoms, two anions are there, then there will be two cations. So these are the ionic compounds, and ionic compounds are very very strong. Strong bonding is there in between them, and these strong bondings cannot be broken down easily. Okay, so they become a strong compound. Just as I have told before, sodium and chlorine, you could find they are oppositely charged. Okay, sodium and your chlorine, you could find they have the bonding with each other as they attract each other. Okay, so opposite charges are there, they attract each other. So naturally, beside chlorine atom there will be no another chlorine atom, but there will be another sodium atom arranged. So the force of attraction between them is very very strong. Okay, so this force of attraction, is there between them. That force of attraction, we call it as ionic bond. Okay, that you must be knowing, because this is your basic study which you have studied in your 9th standard. Please remember all those things and recall whatever you have studied. So the force of attraction between the sodium and the chlorine atom is because of the give and take of electrons. Okay, so this force of attraction we call it as ionic bond. These ionic bonds are very very strong, and no, they cannot be easily separated. Sodium and chlorine cannot be easily separated, but they can dissociate. They can mixed with water easily. Okay, an ionic compound is electrically neutral. Now this compound, the whole compound, as they have distributed a charge within themselves, even though some have lose the charge and even though some have gained the charge, but the charge has been distributed, and so they become electrically neutral. Okay, so sodium, as they have formed into, according to their arrangement, they form as a crystal. Okay, because of the arrangement of positive and negative atoms, or positive and negative anion and cation. So they have a particular arrangement for them. So because of that arrangement, they become a crystalline, and as they become crystalline, they get shine. So you will find your salt is shiny, correct? No. So sodium, and here they have given sodium chloride and potassium iodide. These are the ionic compounds. These ionic compounds are usually crystalline solids. Crystalline solids, they have the property to reflect the light, so they become shine, or either they have a particular shine. So crystalline solids have a definite shape and have smooth and shiny surface. Okay, so here you will find potassium iodide crystals and sodium iodide crystals. Sodium chloride we have already seen. Potassium iodide, you could find potassium, that is K and I. Here also K and I. Ki will be its formula. Okay, so K is positive and I, that is iodide, is negative. So this arrangement, sodium chloride crystals and potassium iodide crystals, you will find how they are arranged. This red color which is been highlighted, chlorine, you will find they will be not close to each other, they will be away from each other, as in between the cations are there. Here iodine, okay, see the arrangement, one iodine and beside it will be arranged the potassium. Okay, so you could find here the crystals. Okay, so this arrangement is different in different ionic compounds, and therefore the shape of the crystals are also different. Okay, you will find here the crystals, how the shape of the crystals here of sodium chloride and here of potassium iodide, because of their give and take of electrons. Okay, So here the attractive force between the sodium and chlorine, okay, so that is an attractive force which has come because of two opposite charges, okay. But chlorine and chlorine, if it comes close, it cannot come close because it has repulsive force. It has same charge, same like your magnetic forces. See here now, one sodium atom can be surrounded by chlorine atom, but the chlorine atom will not be surrounded by chlorine, okay. So here you will find one sodium atom is surrounded, automatically it gets arranged this way. Now this chlorine which is there, all those chlorines which are there, they will be again having the bond with sodium. Here see, one chlorine will have the bond with sodium and one sodium will have again the bond with another chlorine. So this way the arrangement goes on of particular. So strong electrostatic force of attraction is there in between these ionic compounds, okay. So these ionic compounds have very high melting point and very high boiling point, okay. They will melt as you go on giving very high temperature, they will start melting. Your stove gas will be not enough for melting any of your salt or either no any salt at home, table salt at home, because it requires very high temperature for melting or either for boiling. Ionic compounds are hard and they are brittle. You can just press it with the help of the finger. You need not to take the hammer and stuck on it for breaking them. They can be easily formed into powder with your one finger or your thumb. Factors responsible for certain crystal structures are the size of positively and negatively charged ions, as I have already told you, size of positive charge and the negative charge of the substance of that compound, the magnitude of the electrically charge on the ion, how much electric charge is there on that ion, cation or either the anion. So that way it is going to arrange its symmetry. So here there are ionic compounds, sodium chloride, potassium iodide and barium chloride. We are going to study their properties. So all ionic compounds are crystalline and they are solid, okay. Sodium chloride, potassium iodide and barium chloride, okay. Sodium chloride, if you take sodium chloride in a spatula, okay, spatula, that is like a spoon, we use it in a laboratory, and in that spatula you take some amount of sodium chloride and heat it. After heating you will find it loses its crystalline form, it loses its crystalline structure and becomes white amorphous powder. Now it is shiny, okay, and crystalline. Then after heating it, it will become amorphous white powder. Then slowly you will find it will not melt, does not melt easily, but slowly as you go on giving more heat, it will try to expand and try to melt, okay. So melts, it will melt after a long heating. If you keep on heating it for a longer time, that means you are providing heat to it, then it will start melting, okay. That is potassium iodide and barium chloride will melt after long heating, but sodium chloride will not melt easily. Electrolytic cell, no, you can pass electric current through these substances, through ionic compound. Now how electric current can be passed through this ionic compound? Because ionic compound are already charged and they dissociate means they spread in the water. So two carbon electrodes are taken here and a cell is been made, electrolytic cell is been made. You could see the arrangement. One carbon electron will act as a positive anode and another will be negative Okay, so these are electrolytes or electrodes. An electrolyte, what used here is one solution, you can take it, it can be the salt solution, and then a battery for serving an electric current through it, a key is there, and a bulb. Now we have to see whether the bulb glows here. Okay, you will find a solution of sodium chloride is taken here, and all this arrangement is done. We will put on the key, and you will find the bulb glows. As the bulb glows, there is a reaction taking place in that solution of sodium chloride. What reaction takes place? Now what has happened here, in that solution sodium and chlorine is there, that is chloride is there. Sodium is with positive charge and chlorine with the negative charge. Here they are dissociated, they swim in the water, correct, because in their bond water also has occupied within the bond. Okay, and water is carrying the sodium and chlorine here inside it, as if they are swimming inside. But as soon as you pass current through it, what will happen here, chlorine will get attached to the positive electrode and sodium will get attracted towards the negative electrode. Okay, so that way sodium and chlorine will behave in that solution, and chlorine, as it is in the form of gas, it will leave that solution from the electrode, and sodium will remain inside the water, inside that beaker, and again mixed with water to form sodium hydroxide. Okay, here the bulb glows, here it proves that no current is flowing. It proves that even though the electrodes are not connected, they are connected with the help of the solution. So solution of potassium iodide can be taken, solution of barium chloride also can be taken, and you can do the same experiment. You can do this experiment at home also. You can take the pencil lead and connect this arrangement. If you don't have any carbon electrodes, we have graphite, correct, no, both the sides of the pencil you can sharp it, and then one side you can take connect the wire, and the other side of the pencil you can dip it inside the solution of salt. So here the force of attraction between sodium and chlorine, it is so strong that it cannot be broken down easily. But who can break down this, who can separate this sodium and chlorine? Your electrolytic reduction. Though you could see in electrolytic cell, okay, here sodium and chlorine can be separated out. Okay, ionic compounds are brittle, that all we have just now seen. Ionic compounds have high melting point and high boiling point as per their no reactivity, how they are. All these charts are there in your textbook. Please refer the charts, those compounds, ionic compounds and non-ionic compound, that is the water. Okay, so general property of ionic compound, they do not dissolve. Ionic compounds can dissolve in water, but if you take ionic compounds like salt also we can take and try to dissolve it in kerosene, dissolve it in benzene, in petrol, you will find they do not dissolve easily in this solution. Okay, but they dissolve in water. So we'll find ionic compounds dissociates in water. See, dissociation means what is happening, they are with the charge. Sodium has lost the electron and chlorine has gained the electron, and they dissociate with their charge. Sodium will not say now I am going separately to the chlorine, now whatever electron I have given you, you give me back. It will not say like that. Okay, so this is called as dissociation. They move freely into the water, but they do not dissociate into petrol, diesel or kerosene. So how they dissociate, you will find sodium will be attached to the water molecule and chlorine will be also attached to the water molecule. That means this water molecule is taking sodium and chlorine with itself and roaming. Okay, as if a friend has come, sodium has come inside the water. Okay, let's keep on roaming and keep on swimming inside. So water molecule is attaching, from the water molecule oxygen will be attached to the sodium, and it will take the sodium and keep on moving inside the water. And for chlorine, what happens? Hydrogen will attach to the chlorine. Now why hydrogen will get stuck to the chlorine or attracted to the chlorine? Because hydrogen is positively charged. And why oxygen is stuck or attracted to the sodium? Because oxygen is negatively charged. So these are the general properties of ionic compounds. These are on page number 98 and 99. You have to refer page number 99. Usually these are the general properties of ionic compounds. There are 5 properties here, and all these 5 properties we have already studied. So ionic compounds are, they act as an electrolyte. Why they act as an electrolyte? Because they dissociates in water. Okay, thank you very much. You require to study hard as well as read the textbook.